Ladies and gentlemen, today the nation is heartbroken and shocked. One of India's bravest sons and soldiers, Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat, died in a chopper crash. His wife Madhulika Rawat and 11 others too lost their lives in this crash. A brilliant officer to whom a billion looked up to has left for eternal glory, leaving behind a huge void in the military establishment. The Mi-17 chopper carrying Chief of Defence Staff and 13 others took off from Sulur at 11:47, the airbase station, just 94 kilometers from Wellington. Bipin Rawat was to deliver a lecture at the Defence Services Staff College in Wellington in the Nilgiris at 2:45 p.m. this afternoon. But 33 minutes after takeoff, the chopper crashed just 20 meters away from a residential area that is surrounded by tea estates. The chopper caught fire after the crash, landing in the hilly terrain. Moments later, high flames engulfed the chopper and black smoke spiraled towards the sky. Charred bodies were recovered from the crash site. Locals, fire service, defense and police personnel pressed into rescue operations. Eyewitnesses recounted seeing passengers jump out of what looked like a ball of fire. A loving husband and a doting father, General Bipin Rawat's saga of valor and excellence is well known in the power corridors of India and, of course, in the defense establishment. Daughter of late politician Mrigendra Singh and a native of Shadol in Madhya Pradesh, Madhulika Rawat has been a catalyst in empowering the army wives. General Bipin Rawat and Madhulika Rawat are parents to two daughters. But what could have led to the crash is a question that is disturbing many. Initial reports suggest that bad weather may have led to the crash. Low visibility owing to foggy conditions could have been the culprit. There is also speculation that it might have been entangled in power cables and might have crashed into a tree. All these are theories that are doing the rounds. Sudden loss of altitude after the chopper began its descent could also be a possible reason. Yet, the Tri-Services Commission of Inquiry that has been established will come out with its final conclusion, an inquiry headed by the Chief of Air Force. And that will give us the real reason of why what happened today actually happened, leading to the loss of life of 13 out of the 14 passengers in this chopper. The one survivor, Group Captain Varun Singh, still fighting for his life, and all of India prays for his recovery in something that seems to be a fight against all odds. Just how does this nation remember General Bipin Rawat is something that we need to look at. And joining me tonight on this show is Maruf Raza, Group Consulting Editor, Times Network. Also with me this evening, Air Marshal P.K. Barpura, Lieutenant General S.K. Dua, former Chief of Integrated Defence Staff, Lieutenant General B.S. Jaswal, Defence Analyst, Colonel S. Dini, Defence Expert. But my first question goes to General J.J. Singh, former Army Chief. And General J.J. Singh, I want to begin with you, asking you, how do you remember General Bipin Rawat, your interactions with General Bipin Rawat and his whole theory of integrated services, the theatre of integrated services and the reforms in the Indian military establishment?
Good evening, Navika. I would like to say that today we have lost a very gallant officer, a very brave officer who was highly decorated and who has led from the front in various command positions that he occupied. we in the army, I know he was my junior, and he belongs to the 11 Gurkha Rifles, and a very outstanding battalion out of them was 2nd 11 Gurkha Rifles. That's how I became very close to General Bipin Rawat, because it was his battalion. We did extremely well in Kashmir fighting the insurgents, and General Rawat took me to his battalion in Lucknow to give me an honor, because they said, you are part of the 11 Gurkha Rifles. For me, it was a matter of great pride. Now talking about my very, very dear friend and a very outstanding military officer, Bipin Rawat, I would say that he had a vision. Some people may have had their own views on that, but his vision was eventually accepted, and it was to synergize the three forces and to make sure that we put up a front which is going to be formidable for any adversary to overcome. And this also would lead to theaterization of the Indian Armed Forces, Northern Theatre, the Western Theatre, the Southern Theatre, and the, you can say, the Oceanic Theatre. Now these theatre commanders would be the commanders-in-chief of forces of all three arms, that means Army, Navy, Air Force. Besides that, I think what he also contributed in a big way was towards the modernization of the armed forces, particularly the army, and he was working towards making the army more effective, and he took some hard decisions, which were, some of them were not liked by a lot of people, but I would say it was done for the betterment of our defense capability. So I salute this martyr today, because he died in the line of duty. I also salute his wife, Madhulika, a dear friend of ours, who has done a lot of work for the Army Wives Welfare Association, and she went there in her capacity as the president of AWA, and to meet the ladies and children of the soldiers and officers in Wellington. Fate has its own way. It's very unfortunate. We were very shocked, to say the least, and also such a thing was most unexpected. And the Air Force will tell you that they do all the checks and tick mark all the do's before any aircraft takes off. And for a VIP, they do it doubly. SOPs are followed, nobody takes a shortcut, lives are at stake. Today, I take this opportunity, Navika, from your channel to pay my salute, our honest appreciation of all the officers and men who have lost their lives today. And we pray for Group Captain Varun to survive this accident, and may God bless him to recovery. We pray for the souls of these gallant martyrs. And I also want to say, Navika, that in the armed forces, when somebody goes like this, we also remember him forever, because it was not for any other thing but his duty.
Absolutely. In the line of duty is where his life was lost. Let me get you in, Maruf. Maruf, 94 kilometers between Sillur and the Wellington base. 16 kilometers away from Wellington is where the air crash took place. In terms of time, 5 minutes away. If this is not fate, what is? And Maruf, in February of 2015, General Bipin Rawat survived another air crash in Dimapur. What are the odds against him in a second crash?
Well, you know, fate has its own way of addressing so many issues in our life. General Bipin Rawat's professional career is something that has had few parallels to my knowledge in recent times. We've had an ex-chief who's just paid a lot of respect and given him a lot of credit for the work he's done, and General JJ would know that very well. We have people on the panel who served very closely with General Rawat. General Dua was CISC when General Rawat was Army Chief, so they would have interacted very regularly on South Block. And the fact is that General Bipin Rawat, you see, I mean, traditionally when lesser mortals like us go to Wellington to give our lecture, we fly into Coimbatore and we drive up to Wellington, which is about 2.5 hours or so. It's a winding road, hill terrain, but not very high hills, a lot of tea gardens all over. But as VIPs do, they fly. It is tragic. I mean, 5 minutes could have been this way or that way. And General Bipin Rawat is an alumnus of Staff College, prestigious institution of our armed forces, a great learning institution, very well endowed with facilities. The tragedy is that Wellington in itself doesn't have top-of-the-line medical facilities other than giving first aid to situations which are reasonably manageable, but anything more serious has to go down to the plains or to hospitals in Chennai, Coimbatore, or even Pune and Delhi. So there is that emergency aid would have been difficult to come by. At the same time, also getting to the spot where tea gardens are, there is one odd road that connects one part of the tea garden from the main road head to the other part of another garden, and there are a lot of sort of footpaths and small tracks, so its evacuation gets that much more delayed. Notwithstanding that, what General JJ has rightly said, that the Air Force would have double-checked everything. Him having been chief knows how VIP flights function, what are the checks that are in place. So, I mean, I would not be able to find fault with anything the Air Force would have done on the face of it. You have brought out what could be the reason. It could be inclement weather, it could be bad visibility, or it could be the inquiry will eventually find out. I'm not good enough to be able to pass any view on that. What I can say, and I think all the panelists will probably agree with me, without a fault, that General Bipin Rawat was the right man for the right job at the right time in history. You know, he was well equipped. He had a sterling military record from the Academy, Sword of Honor, Command and General Staff College in the US. He commanded virtually every unit in operational areas in J&K, in the Northeast. He was involved with the operations against the Myanmar area where the insurgent groups that attacked our Dogra soldiers in Myanmar, in Manipur, that operation that was carried out by the Special Forces, ironically by the same Special Force unit which is now in the bad news because of what happened with the firing in Nagaland. But I mean, Special Forces are Special Forces and they work to a plan when given. Bipin Rawat worked very closely for that. My assumption is he got his Uttam Yudh Seva medal there. But he also earned laurels for his role as a brigade commander in Africa, with part of a UN mission. He really turned the tide of public opinion, local opinion, and the Indian opinion against any questions that we asked about why are we sending troops into the UN. He took some steps there, including getting journalists over from India and getting one of them to stay with him in his room since he was short of accommodation. He says, you stay here, you write what you want, but understand what we are up against. And so he was a man, you know, who didn't have hang-ups, who didn't have any agenda other than following the diktat that was given to him, that my mandate was to create, amongst other things, theatre commands, but that was not the only thing that he was put in there as CDS. The CDS position, as some of us have read and found out, was first, the idea was mooted in the time of Mrs. Gandhi after the 71 war, and she was considering Sam Manekshaw, but there was blockades both within the service and the bureaucracy. But then Vajpayee ji's time onwards, the subject kept coming up and kept getting scuttled off. So I think they found the right man, the right combination, and the right time and the right public mood to do that. His role was also to cut down on expenses. His role was also to find the right military platforms that the services would use and not duplication, that the army buys the same helicopters that the navy wants and we so end up buying twice the amount what would he have normally had. General Dua can educate us on that. And finally, I think he was also looking at creating a new culture with the new breed of officers that we have, that you need to be hands-on, you don't need to hanker on privileges that the system should give you or not give you, but you're an officer, you're a commissioned officer that is proud enough, a kind of service entity that you have, and you get on with it. And the Bada Sahab culture needs to be done away with. It brought him a certain amount of unpopularity with senior officers of the bygone era, but those who served with him swore by him.
And also the media, I must say, because he wasn't the stiff collar army man who wouldn't speak. He would say, he would share his ideas, his vision, and he would say things on camera as he would say behind.
Our own Srinjoy was a confidant of his. I mean, Srinjoy has lots of stories to tell. I had the privilege of serving with him briefly also in Dehradun. So, learned a few things from him. One was his humility. I mean, he was never shy to say, you know, I got this, but I don't think I was the best man for it. But once I got it, I gave it my best shot. You know, that's the kind of approach.
That is humility personified, and we've never been as proud of the uniform and the man in it as we have been with General Bipin Rawat. But you speak about Srinjoy and his personal experiences. My panelists will bear with me as I get my colleague Srinjoy into this. Srinjoy, it was part of folklore. You knew General Bipin Rawat so well. Share with us. I'm sure you're as shaken as all of us, maybe more because you knew him better. Share with our viewers tonight on the things that he may have shared with you, things that nobody else would have said, given the position and the stature the man enjoyed.
Well, Navika, first of all, the next time I go to South Block, no one is going to tell me, Tera kaisa chal raha hai? And that is something I will miss. Because whenever I went to South Block and I met him, he would always have time for me, regardless how busy he was. And in these last few months, he's been fearfully busy. And for good reason. For one thing, one of his legacies will be these battle groups. And believe me, what he had pushed is going to happen. The presentation, unless of course something happens because of this, is before the chief, the army chief, on the 10th of this month. And then this battle group creation is a dream of General Rawat's, and that will come. The other point I remember him talking about was right after the surgical strike. Apparently the initial plan, after the Prime Minister had cleared it, was something which was not very active. We would go in at one place, strike a place, and come back. So there were 3 generals who didn't like the idea so much. They said, we have political clearance. Why do we need to just do this, just this? Let's do something much more. And one of the 3 generals was the vice chief at that time, General Bipin Rawat. It has to be said that on many occasions, you spoke about his help with the media. And I have to say that on many occasions, he has told me that when you see wrong, just write. Do not worry about anything. Kisi ko mat chhod. And that is a point he would always say. Because he was completely transparent and honest. No one will ever say anything about his honesty. He was beyond anything like that. And there were never any personal complaints about him, which is why he had the guts to do and say anything he wanted. Even with us, he would check things out. One day I remember he asked me, Tera ghar kaisa hai? So I said, I live in a DD at flat. So he said, you used your journalist quota to get your flat. So I said, no, I didn't use a journalist quota. I bought it of the original owner. So he looked a little relieved. He said, okay. Then he told me about his house. He said, my father and I, between us, we had 9 lakh. That's all we had. And we had a choice. Do we refurbish our Dehradun house or do we buy a flat in Noida? And then we decided that we would buy a flat in Noida. He was vice chief then. He said, after I retire, my daughters will be married and my wife and I will live in Noida. He was that kind of man. He was that open, that transparent, and he would say things that he really meant. And he was a wonderful person to deal with, even professionally. Remember one day I was going to see him, and he said, I'm sorry, I don't have time for you. I said, what happened? He said, today is Lieutenant General Praveen Bakshi's last day in the army. He's coming to see me for dinner. So I said, can I come and stand outside your house so that, I can take shots of him coming in and so on? He said, okay, fine, do that. I can't think of any chief who would do that straight off. And as I stood there, his staff came out and said, sorry, just leave, just leave, just leave. At that point, I just mentioned that go inside and check with the chief and then come back to me. So a little while later, someone very sour-faced came out and said, yes, the army chief has said that you are allowed to stand outside his house. He was that kind of chief. And to that extent, we will regret him. But I have to say, he would tell us things first. Things like the fact that there will be no more brigadiers in the Indian Army. That was his plan. And he said there will be over 1,000 major generals. When the story eventually, when we wrote about it, when we did it, people couldn't believe it. Then we found that yes, General Bipin Rawat was actually interested in this and he wanted something. So
Absolutely.
He had a future
Yes.
for the Indian Army. He had a vision for the Indian Army, which is why the Indian Army has said what it has said today.
Absolutely, Srinjoy. Even as our hearts are heavy about the loss of life of our braves, along with General Bipin Rawat, who laid down their lives today, I want to go across to Padmaja, who's just got the pictures of those who were accompanying General Bipin Rawat on this ill-fated chopper. Padmaja, can you tell us where are these braves from, the soldiers who were accompanying General Bipin Rawat in that chopper to Wellington?
That's right, Navika. In fact, we can confirm that now all of the soldiers who were from the army, we have their pictures now. The information obviously has been given to their families as well. There is Lance Nayak Vivek Kumar. He is from 1 Para SF. The other picture is of just a second. This is Lance Nayak Vivek Kumar. We also have, in fact, Brigadier Lidder, who's, if we can just scroll this quickly. The other pictures that we have access right now are of Nayak Gursevak Singh. He is from 9 Para SF. The third person is Lieutenant Colonel Harjinder Singh. There is Lance Nayak B.S. Teja. He is from 11 Para SF. He is from Andhra Pradesh. He belongs to the Kunnur district. And Nayak Jitendra Kumar of 3 Para SF. He in fact hails from Madhya Pradesh, Navika, and here in this picture you can see him with Lieutenant Colonel Harjinder Singh, and of course there is Brigadier Lidder.
Brigadier Lidder there. Lieutenant General S.K. Dua, you've worked alongside General Bipin Rawat. How do you recall? Maruf mentioned the fact that many people were opposed to the vision. Even General J.J. Singh alluded to this. Many people were opposed to the vision that General Bipin Rawat had. They had differences of opinion, as is fair in any walk of life. But did you ever see General Bipin Rawat in a bad mood or worried or stressed about the fact that he had a vision, and the fact that his vision was something that was backed by the government, by the political leadership? Did he ever share any information or his general success in getting his vision across in terms of improving the workings of the three services and forming an integrated theatre-like approach for the services?
Navika, allow me to begin with paying homage to all those who've lost their lives, whose pictures we just saw. Every life is equally precious. But in General Rawat, we've lost a great son of India, because he had the ability to strike a good rapport with the senior leadership, bureaucrats, and even beyond the Ministry of Defense on one hand. And on the other, he was so approachable that even a Jawan could walk up to him and tell him something. He would take care of every small detail. Some of the anecdotes that you heard bring that out very well. As far as the integration process is concerned, it is this ability of being able to take harsh decisions or being able to take bold steps that, like Maruf mentioned, he was the right man for the right job when he was appointed as the first CDS, because it is a tough task to integrate the three services. When he was the co-commander, those strikes Myanmar, Maruf mentioned, took place. When he was the army chief, he took a very bold stand and a strong step against the Chinese incursions or intended incursions at Doklam. Those are the very strong, bold steps taken by him in command. Thereafter, he's always encouraged this sort of a thing in his colleagues and subordinates, and has been party to various strong steps like surgical strikes, the Balakot strikes that has been brought out earlier. So he had this ability to be able to act at different levels, and he could take very harsh decisions and be very blunt about it at times. He was also given the mandate of integrating the capability development of the three services, and that is something that had started to yield fruits. You will recall that in the last couple of years, a lot of big ticket purchases have been made, whether it is from foreign buyers or domestic industry. The point that I'm trying to bring out is his ability to act at different levels. I'm not going to repeat what Maruf or Srinjoy or other panelists have already brought out, because his personal career, his competence has already been spoken of, and I think we couldn't have asked for a better man for this particular job, and he will be missed. History will always remember him for all the strong steps that he has taken and all the milestones that he has been able to achieve. Personally, and this I'm referring to your question, personally, we've had a lot of interaction over the decades, but we've done courses together, we've been posted together, but a very intense interaction when he was the army chief and I was the chief of integrated defense staff, because that is the time we were working on integration of the three services. Yes, we used to have differences, and your question is about whether he ever got worked up. I wouldn't say he never got worked up. When he felt very strongly about something, he was able to express and his annoyance or his displeasure at a thing in very blunt words. But the good part was that at the very same time, he had the capability to listen to a difference of opinion, even from his subordinates. I think that made him a great leader, and I think he will always be missed. And at a personal level, I will always miss.
Yes, Anybody who's had a brush with General Bipin Rawat will remember him in those words. But let me get in. Let me get in Air Marshal P.K. Barbura. Air Marshal P.K. Barbura, you know, people as experienced as yourself would have seen the visuals today, and you would have you know, seen and heard and you know, gone through the timeline of the way things really took place. Anything that comes to your mind from the wreckage that you've seen, the kind of fire that came out, the ball of fire, the fuel tank, the main cabin, the way it's been mutilated virtually, does that bring to your mind any specific reason for the crash that happened today?
Firstly, I salute all the people who have lost their lives in this very tragic accident, and my condolences to the families. My salute, like I said, to all. Now, let us start by saying, I have heard the media throughout the day. I have been on the media myself. But there's so much of speculation that is being generated by every Tom, Dick and Harry. It is the saddest thing. Can you imagine, like you said, the crash site is it's a burnt up debris of the aircraft. Now, I'm not going to say whether it was a technical defect, whether it was a pilot error, whether it was the weather conditions of fog, etc. People have said that the helicopter taking the VVIP was going through a dangerous terrain. I have taken off from Sulul and landed in a helicopter in Wellington, and we are keeping the SOPs for a VIP is double check of everything. Yes, if there is a technical fault coupled with bad weather, then that is a dangerous situation. I will give you one very clear example of what has happened to Army Commander East in 1994 or something. General Jamil. He, his wife, his complete staff, all the air crew died in Bhutan, very close to Hazong, because they went into a logging cable which was not even marked anywhere. It was done by locals who were sending down logs. Now that is destiny. We keep forgetting destiny. I'll give you, there's a Hindi saying, Janam, Vivah, Mrityu, tumhare haath mein nahi hai.
That's true.
We will find that bucket behind that tree and kick it. It has happened so many times. So let the inquiry go through, please. And I request through your media to all concerned, don't speculate, for goodness sake. Give time to put the puzzle together. We'll find the black box, we'll find the voice recorder, everything. Obviously, when the helicopter crashes for any reason, the amount of fuel there, the heat, etc., obviously the thing will burn and burn very rapidly and maybe even explode. So don't think, you know, people have started talking about sabotage. Come on, have a heart, wait for some time, yaar. And more so, these are unlearned people who've never even got into a helicopter who's making these statements. I remember some politician having called General Rawat, for whom I have never met him, he's far junior to me, but I remember one politician calling him a gunda. What a shameful thing, when that politician may not have even fired a bullet, while General Rawat must have faced bullets. Now that is how speculations are done. Please, for goodness sake, through your media, I appeal to all, including the media, including media, don't speculate. We'll find out, we'll let you know, and we'll let this country know what is the most probable cause after the court of inquiry.
Very well said, Air Marshal
And believe you
Barbara.
me, the SOPs, no, please, one last. General JJ has mentioned that he's flown adequate number of these missions with helicopters. I have flown adequate. Believe you me, we do double check, and double check means at times triple check if required. Thank you.
Well, very well said. No question about speculating the reasons. It's just that there is general curiosity, and as an expert, I just asked you that question. That information that we are just getting is that General Bipin Rawat's mortal remains will be brought to Delhi tomorrow, and his funeral will be held on Friday at Delhi Cant, and then his last rites will be there. And there will be a memorial between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. after which his mortal remains will be taken for their final rites. Let me come across to Colonel S. Dini. Colonel Dini, you know, I want to talk to you about General Bipin Rawat. Somebody who's worked in the Northeast, somebody who's looked at Kashmir very closely. He's had time in the United Nations as well, and very closely involved in recent times in the surgical attacks as well. And that shows you the gamut of issues that he's had the bandwidth to address, to plan, and to execute. What does that really tell us about the contribution of this man to defense services and security of India in recent times?
Firstly, Navika ma'am, first I would like to place my sincere condolences to all the fallen heroes and Mrs. Rawat. And also I pray for Group Captain Varun Singh. Hopefully he should come back fighting fit, and I'm sure he will come back fighting fit. Now, having said that, as far as General Bipin Rawat is concerned, there are few people who are born to be a soldier, and he was one who was born to be a soldier. He was born into a soldier's family, and he died a soldier. That's what, the first which I can make out of him. And as you rightly mentioned, here is a general who has such rich experience in counter-terrorism operations and also high-altitude operations. Both these operations are today in the forefront of what India is facing, whether it is the Chinese border and whatever is happening in Kashmir. Nobody better than a person of General Bipin Rawat's caliber could have handled both these situations. And I think we were extremely fortunate. If you see the kind of events which has happened in the last 2 years or 3 years, it was our good fortune that General Bipin Rawat was at the helm of affairs, who understood what happens there. Unless a person serves in these areas, they don't understand exactly what is the kind of, what does the young company commander, what does the battalion commander undergoes, how does a brigade commander react to certain situations, whether it is counter-terrorism or whether high altitude. So that is why General Bipin Rawat was handpicked, and I think it was just India's luck that he was there when the situation was really bad. And also one more thing. There are times when things will go wrong. That is the nature of operation. That is the nature of the thing which we get involved. And that is the time, as a leader, he stood by those company commanders. There were a lot of issues which was faced, and he took it upon himself. He protected those company commanders. That it is my duty. I will protect him, and he ensured that all those criticism was directed towards him, and those company commanders were protected. Now, these kind of leaders are very rare today. These kind of leaders are very, very rare today, and that is what the legacy which he will leave. I know that in the army, nobody is indispensable. There are high caliber senior officers in our armed forces, whether it is the Army, Air Force or Navy, and many of them are in the panel today as well. But I know that what General Bipin Rawat was attempting was a path in which there was he didn't have an example to look forward in front of him, because he was the first Chief of Defence Staff. And there he faced multiple challenges in getting all the three services together. And there That's what his second character comes into being, and he did not mince words. For him, it was not the services; it was the nation which came first, and therefore he had to take tough decisions. At times, he didn't make too many people happy within the services also. And I'm privy to so many discussions which used to be fiercely criticism of General Rawat. But he had a task in his hand, and that task was to integrate all together and get the job done. And in a way, I think it's a sad loss for the nation, not only as a leader, but as a thinking general, and most importantly, a nation's general. That's all I can say, ma'am.
Absolutely, Colonel Diri. Lieutenant General B.S. Jaswal, many of us, and Colonel Diri referred to the fact, and Air Marshal Barbora referred to the fact that he was called a gunda by somebody, and he came up with this definition in Kashmir where we were fighting against terrorism, and he came up with this definition that locals who helped these terrorists would be called over the ground workers, and he came in for a lot of political criticism, yet not once did he shift his position from that place, and he's been single-mindedly looking at how to get the better of terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir. How do you remember him, Lieutenant General Jaswal? General Bipin Rawat, of course, has left a void, but what are the challenges that he dealt with and really got the better of?
At the very outset, Navika, I salute General and Mrs. Rawat, Brigadier Lidda, and rest of the men in uniform who laid down their life in the line of duty. As I speak about General Rawat, I actually get a lump in my throat because my lexicon fails me to actually aptly describe him. Coming to your question, what exactly he faced in the valley and how he said that OGWs, etc. He was a no-nonsense man. And he was very direct in his approach, in his expression. So he didn't mince his words. He spoke, and he spoke the truth. All of us who fought insurgency, we understand insurgency. And the statement that he made was really indeed a valued statement that only a person who fought insurgency numerous times would understand. Very few could understand what he meant. He came under criticism, but I think those people do not understand what fighting insurgency is. General Rawat, as a matter of fact, I had the misfortune of not really serving with him very intimately. But he was such a humble person. I quoted in one of the channels, and he was so approachable that I spoke to him one day after I had retired. He was, of course, otherwise junior, but I used to serve him, being the chief, and that's a protocol. But he used to serve me, very sweet of him. I spoke about a lieutenant colonel. He said, sir, usko bolo mere paas, he'll send him to me. I said, no, it will be violating the protocol. A lieutenant colonel cannot go to you directly. He said, nahi sir, main keh raha hu. So, well, I sent this lieutenant colonel and he straight away summoned him. Spent 45 minutes with him in the office. Can you imagine a chief spending 45 minutes listening to the grievance of that lieutenant colonel? Wasn't he a soldier to the hilt? Wasn't he a man, a soldier of the soldiers? I think he was. I mean, one can write so much and speak so much about him. It's very difficult to, compress and describe him. I only describe him like this, that he was a soldier to the hilt, and he made sure whatever task was given to him, he did far beyond that. He had depth of perspective, and whatever was mandated, we've seen in the recent times also as the CDS, the way he has added adrenaline to the concept of theaterization, procurement of equipment, that speaks for itself. So I think it's a very, very tragic loss. And Brigadier Lidda is from my regiment. I've known him as a kid. We were posted when I was posted in Bhutan. His father was there. He was an outstanding officer again. Outstanding.
And that's how people remember him. An outstanding officer, an outstanding man. And I just want to show you visuals that I just tripped across as I was searching the net. And I saw this man who everybody sees as a soldier, as a man who was giving such high military advice to the government of the day. But this is a man who had a life and a smile that was larger than life. Just take a look at these visuals of General Bipin Rawat dancing to the steps of a Nepali song. And that's how we would remember General Bipin Rawat, the man with a mission, the man with a smile, the man with a spring in his step. General Bipin Rawat. The man may be no more, but the soul lives on, and so do memories. And I leave you with this special tribute to the man who was a man on a mission and played a key role in modernizing the armed forces. Jai Hind.
Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat is no more. General Rawat died in a tragic helicopter crash near Kunnur in Tamil Nadu. The 63-year-old general was 2 years into his tenure as India's highest military officer. As India's first Chief of Defence Staff, he ensured seamless coordination among the three services and served as the contact point for the government. An officer who had the military insight and the courage to look the enemy in the eye.
China is a great master at psychological warfare. And if you get cowed down with the psychological warfare, you will lose the war. You have to always stay ahead of his times, understand the game of psychology and deception that the Chinaman keeps playing and stay well ahead of him. Don't get cowed down by statements that he keeps making and laws that he keeps coming out with. He can make a law for himself. That law is not binding on me. I have to make sure that I defend the territory which we have been asked to defend at all costs. That's what we will do.
Before the days of CDS, General Rawat served 3 years as the 27th Chief of Army Staff. He was credited with pushing the concept of theatre commands. It meant doing away with the outdated cold start doctrine. Instead, he envisaged the introduction of integrated battle groups for swifter and effective response to the enemy.
Theatre commands have actually become a necessity for our country because, we've got two adversaries with unsettled borders. So you've got to make sure that to deal with the northern adversary, you need a single commander to look at the operational situation there. And he must have the resources from all the three services under command and under his control so that we can find if you can put in a joint effort in an integrated manner to deal with the situation that may evolve on the line of actual control. Similarly, on a western front, again with Pakistan, we need to put up a united joint front. And that can only happen if you have one theatre commander looking at one battlefront against one adversary and one theatre commander looking at one battlefront against the other adversary.
Born in 1958, General Rawat did his schooling in Shimla before joining the National Defence Academy. In 1978, he was commissioned in the same unit as his father, the 5th Battalion of 11 Gorkha Rifles. He grew into a veteran of counter-insurgency warfare, conducting operations in the most difficult terrains. Under his watch, the 2015 cross-border operation into Myanmar against NSCNK militants was carried out. As Vice Chief of Army Staff, General Rawat was part of the planning of the 2016 surgical strikes across the line of control. When it came to standing up for his men, for their actions in the line of duty, General Rawat could always be counted on. He defended Major Gogoi's unconventional methods to handle a sensitive and a dangerous situation.
The people who have been tasked to counter terrorism make that decision. Gogoi was tasked to extricate people who had gone for electioneering. It was late evening and he had to pull out those people because now they were getting threatened by the locals there, amongst whom were also terrorists carrying weapons. What if it happened that he had fired and injured one people and they had retaliated and he had counter-retaliated and that would have led to a massacre?
A military mind that was eager to modernize India's defense forces. He advocated shedding the flab and making the forces more leaner. In General Rawat's untimely demise, India has lost a distinguished military general and a thoroughbred gentleman.